Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the Fantasy Champion Show. It's the Week 6 edition. I'm Nick Anastos along with Bob Morin here at the Castle Hill Studios. And a lot to talk about this week, no question about it. Last week, kind of a routine week in terms of waivers. This week, a lot popped off in Week 5 and a lot of scrambling now in Week 6. So don't worry, we'll cover the waivers, we'll cover the ads, we'll cover the drops. And then we'll go game by game over the Week 6 schedule, tell you who to start and who to sit. But we begin tonight with a new segment, Bob. We're going to give some shout-outs because that's how we do things here on the Fantasy Champion Show. Week 5, a lot of good things happened. A lot of players stepped up, caught our attention, and we want to give some props here on the Fantasy Champion Show. Starting with a guy who, at this point, you could probably call him unsexy, and that's Reggie Wayne, just a veteran who was kind of lost in the shuffle last year when Indianapolis went through the Manning to Luck transition, had a down year, didn't have a reliable quarterback, but this year has Andrew Luck looking his way, and he has produced to say the least, especially, Bob, in Week 5.
Yeah, Reggie Wayne, I think he's still sexy. He did me well this past week. Monster game. Right now ranked number 7 in his position at wide receiver. And, yeah, last year, I think the quarterback situation had everything to do with it. It looked like he kind of gave up last year. And, you see when he has a great quarterback, Peyton Manning, and now Luck is playing unbelievable. And, yeah, Reggie Wayne did me well last week, killing Green Bay. And, moving along here, Percy Harvin, have to give this guy props. He's had an amazing season so far. A big surprise to many here. Number 3 ranked wide receiver right now.
Well, he is the Minnesota offense right now. I mean, you have Adrian Peterson, but when they go to the air and they use him in a variety of ways, number 12 is getting involved.
Running the ball. He's been catching the ball. He's been returning. He had a return touchdown. Percy Harvin's been amazing. And then moving along, have to give some defensive props once in a while. Von Miller. I know you're a big Von Miller fan. He was a beast against the Pats. A lot of people got to see him. 13.5 points in fantasy this week. And then to round out this shout-out segment, you and I, a big fan of this guy, John Madden. I think we got
a legend.
Gotta say something about John. He is a football hero in my mind.
Why is Madden relevant, though? There's a story involved there.
Yeah, I recently had watched a Tom Coughlin, show. It was like a coach's show on the NFL Network, and John Madden had called Tom Coughlin the day after the Patriots beat the Giants in the final week when they went undefeated, and he left a message on Tom Coughlin's voicemail saying how he was proud that he went out there, nobody sat, they played the game hard like it was supposed to be played, and he was like, I'm getting emotional. It was a great message. It brought goosebumps to me. I know it sounds corny, but it's the truth. And then he played it to his team the next day. They went out and won the Super Bowl. So, the rest is history. So, John Madden, that was a good story. I hadn't heard it till now, and it was years ago, So
Madden, highly respected here on the Fantasy Champion Show. A true influence to football fans from our generation. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos along with Bob Morin. And I'll give a shout out to Luke Kuechly. Now, New England fans know who he is from his Boston College days. Had some health issues when he was a member of the Eagles football team. Rookie year this year down there in Carolina. Saw a little bit of that Panthers game on the red zone, and this guy was all over the field, literally. Every time we looked up, Carolina on defense, Kuechly was involved in some kind of a tackle. Just wanted to give him a shout out as he finished with over 10 total tackles with the Carolina Panthers. Big week, as we mentioned, with waivers. Injuries, of course, Bob, impacting waivers all through the year. And there were some key ones over the weekend. We'll start in Green Bay, where Cedric Benson went down and is going to be out for the next 2 months or so. So it looks like Alex Green, a guy who missed all of last year, was on IR, kind of lost in the shuffle behind James Starks, and then they bring in Benson, and Green just hasn't seen the field. Did get an opportunity against the Colts, made the most of it with 55 yards on limited carries, and I'll have a chance to start over the next 8 weeks or so. What do you think of Alex Green?
Yeah, I think he looked pretty good, and this is a guy that he's not a rookie. You said he missed all of last year. He's been in the league. How many? He's at least
Second
3 or 4. It's his second year this year?
Yeah.
He was a rookie last year? I thought he'd been in the league a year or two before that. But anyways, yeah, he is a good runner, and like you said, he made the most of his opportunity, and I added him in a league. I think he could contribute. He has the chance right now, and I think he's going to grab it and go. We saw Cedric Benson run the ball well. Why not? Adam and Green Bay will have an opportunity, with some red zone. Not sure what's going to go on there with James Starks. He's another guy you might want to keep an eye out on to add.
Yeah.
Played last year. He's been dependable. He's been injured at the beginning of the season, but one of those guys is going to take the reins and go with it.
And a lot of them are available as well, so make sure to jump on either back. I'd say Green probably the first crack based on health, at least for this week, week 6, when they play Sunday night at Houston. Another guy who kind of broke out of his shell was Mr. Gordon down there in Cleveland. Another rookie guy, big receiver at 6'4". They looked his way. Brandon Weeden targeted him, I think, 11 times, or make it 8. 8 targets,
8 times, yeah.
8 targets, 2 catches, but both went for a touchdown, including one from 40-plus yards out. He's explosive. He can play the slot, and has kind of been a hidden secret in a lot of leagues. Went in the supplemental draft to Cleveland after missing most of his senior year with Baylor. But he's a guy you liked in the preseason, and now finally looking like he's taking on more and more of a share of that Browns offense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that with Cleveland right now, there's nothing really there. So he has this right now, and he has to just run with it. The only thing that scares me about him is, like you said, 2 catches, 8 targets. He's young. He is a project, and Cleveland admits that. He's going to take some time to develop, but he has that big play potential, and he's a good receiver. They went out and gave a second-round pick for this guy.
Right.
So, yeah, he is a future with them, and I would go with him right now, especially if you need help at wide receiver. Why not? So, but expect inconsistency.
Speaking of young projects, as we continue to take a look at the waiver wire here on the Week 6 edition of the Fantasy Champion Show, Nick Anastos with Bob Morin, Ruben Randall, a guy who finally got to see some snaps offensively in a pass-happy offense with the New York Giants. Hakeem Nicks owners take note. He's been down. We've seen other players over the last couple of weeks step up in Nicks's absence, including Mr. Bartum from a few weeks ago, but he's kind of disappeared. And then they bring on Ruben Randall, who went for some good numbers in a Week 5 win as well. So talk a little bit about the Giants' situation and how Ruben Randall fits in.
He's another guy just benefiting from injuries. With Nicks out and Barton, he was hurt last week, and it really, you saw Ruben Randall finally step up. This guy was pretty much irrelevant the first 4 weeks of the season, had 1 catch. And has come along. He stepped up, and he actually looks pretty good. He had 5 catches this past weekend, 5 or 6 catches. So, yeah, keep an eye on him. I heard Nicks is trying to come back. He practiced limited today. Tomorrow will be a big indicator if he's going to go, and obviously that's going to make a difference.
That's going to be a lingering issue too.
Well, that's going to be a big difference in Ruben Randall's value pretty much too. Obviously hinders on Nicks. So
another injury situation in Indianapolis where Donald Brown went down. He was carrying the ball for the majority of the time with the Colts, and now a guy, Vic Ballard, again, a guy who comes out of left field, basically was buried in the depth chart, but Bob Morin sniffed him out in the draft, had to release him, but now he looks like he's back with the Black Bears.
Yeah, I really like this matchup too this week. The Colts, I thought Donald Brown was doing all right until this injury. That's what I mean. So they're playing the Jets this week, and the Jets have let up some touchdowns this year, rushing 7 touchdowns they've allowed to opposing backs in the fantasy.
Yeah, the Jets can't stop the run like they could a couple of years ago.
So yeah, I would go Adam. He's a rookie. He's had about 20-some-odd carries this year for about 50 yards, I think 47 yards to be exact. So pretty much he's been, a short yardage guy, change of pace. But let's see what he can do. He is a rookie, and, if he can come out doing well, it's going to be tough to sit him on the bench.
All right, drops. Matt Castle?
Yeah, I'm going Matt Castle. I can't stand this guy. Even when he was in New England, he rubbed me the wrong way. You knew he was a product of the system. He was a typical New England guy. When he leaves the system, he's going to, fizz. And he showed some spurts, but I think it's more been maybe the weapons he had around him.
Yeah.
But now we're really seeing it. It's sad, though, when your own fans boo when you're injured on your home field, too. So that's something, that's just wrong in sports. But Matt Castle, definitely get rid of him. And Brady Quinn is going to be his replacement. If he's on your team, you have issues to begin with. So that's a whole nother topic. But, yeah, get rid of him, too. So stay away. from those guys.
This is the Week 6 edition of the Fantasy Champion Show with Nick Anastos and Bob Morin, MC the Brick, controlling the camera in the cut. We take a look now at the schedule, beginning with the Thursday night matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. Down year, Bob, for Titans fans, down year for Titans players across the board, and a little bit of a revival, at least last week in Pittsburgh, with Rashard Mendenhall getting his first action of the season, coming back from a knee injury. He performed very well, exceeded both of our expectations last week, and has a pretty good chance for an encore Thursday night.
Yeah, I love this matchup.
Who are some of the guys, besides Mendenhall, that you would feel comfortable green-lighting tonight?
Well, obviously, Big Ben is going to have a game. Tennessee's let up 12 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks this year. And if you don't remember, last year he put up 5 against them. So
Tennessee.
Against Tennessee. So, yeah, I'm thinking Big Ben is going to have a big game. And then you might as well go with one of his, it seems like an old reliable, Heath Miller. Tennessee's let up in 5 games this year, 4 games they've let up a touchdown to a tight end. So I would expect Heath Miller to get in the end zone. He did have a 2-touchdown game a couple weeks ago. So let's see. Off a bye week, I think Pittsburgh's going to be very strong. And, yeah.
And they take care of the football as well. I mean, you could say what you want about Roethlisberger. The guy doesn't turn it over very often. 8 touchdowns, only 1 interception through 4 games with the Steelers. Taking a look at Cincinnati and Cleveland, the Battle of Ohio. Not a whole lot of fantasy power on either of those teams.
No, I think really in this game you're going to look at 2 players. I'm going to go with Ben Jarvis Green Ellis in Cincinnati. I think
you're still riding his bandwagon
against Cleveland. The thing about Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, he's already played Cleveland this year, put up 105 total yards. He did all right.
This is the second meeting?
Week 2, yeah. They played in week 2. And I'm going to go with Trent Richardson. I think that, he's been doing extremely well, and obviously he's going to be starting in most leagues, I would hope. Normally a team that has him in keeper leagues is going to be, needing him. So those 2 are definitely the only 2 guys in that game I really see as must-starts.
Yeah, Richardson has been a beast.
Oh, he's been awesome.
He's been better than advertised, and there was a lot of hype coming in surrounding him.
You know what was funny was, remember back in the summer, all these fantasy magazines and rankings came out, and I remember making this comment being like, they have Trent Richardson as the number 4 running back. It's crazy.
Well, here he is.
He really, right now you could arguably put him right there in that top 5.
Sure.
Exactly. So, yeah, I would definitely go with those backs, and I think Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, don't worry about it. There's going to be opportunity in this game. Cleveland, has definitely let up some points.
A lot of Dallas Cowboy owners were let down 2 weeks ago in Week 4, and that Monday night debacle, that Monday night breakdown where Tony Romo threw 5 interceptions in a blowout loss to the Bears. They've had a week off. They get to lick their wounds a little bit before coming out and facing Baltimore. Now, their defense not as feared as it has been over the last couple of years. They're getting older, to put it bluntly. So Dallas, 2 weeks to get ready. Baltimore does have the home field advantage. Number of stars on both sides. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, right now, those stars you're talking about, Miles Austin, Dez Bryant, I think you have to go to them. Like you said, Baltimore's defense, they've been, weaker.
They've been better.
Yeah, they've been better, but they've let up some yards to receivers this year. And I think if Romo can get it together and not turn the ball over, those 2 are going to be great plays as they always are. On the other side of the ball, Ray Rice, obviously he's a must start, but just be careful here. The Dallas, like you just said, the Dallas defensive line, actually you didn't say, you said about Baltimore, but the Dallas defensive line is getting healthier. They're actually, they could pose a little threat to Ray Rice this week, and he hasn't been playing like a number 1 or a number 2 pick this year. So be interesting to see. But the Baltimore defense, we have said they're a little weaker, but as far as fantasy goes, they have done all right point-wise, and Dallas has let up a lot of points because of all the turnovers. Tony Romo coughing the ball up. I think it's 16-plus fantasy points in 3 contests this year. The Dallas has let up 16 or more. So
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
Yeah, it could definitely be.
Would be comfortable playing any of the major Ravens or Cowboys. This is week 6 of the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos along with Bob Morin. We continue to run down the NFL schedule, and we move now to Philadelphia. The Eagles, plenty of stars on the offensive side there as well. Detroit, a team who has struggled, surprisingly struggled, through the first 4 games on their schedule. Here's another team, Bob, coming off their bye. They rested guys last week. They're 1-3, so they need this game on the field, and they need another one in the win column for sure. Matthew Stafford is where I believe we should start this conversation, a guy who has been subpar at times this season, but I think personally he's going to come out and have a pretty good game Sunday.
Yeah, obviously with what he has there, it's given Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford, huge numbers when he's playing up to par. It's going to really hinder, I think, this game on the Lions run game.
Yeah.
If they can get that going, it's a mystery still because LaShore came in 2 weeks ago, did really well his first game. His second game, not so well. I don't know if you want to credit that to the defense they were playing.
He did nothing his second game.
Yeah, he didn't.
Under 2 a carry.
He had a fumble. I think a lot is going to depend on that. But, Philly's, pass defense is not bad. So he could have his hands full. But like I said, if they get that running game going, I would expect solid numbers out of him like usual.
Well, who's the new guy in the mix here? This guy, Jacques Bell, who has flown completely under the radar, but has been consistent over the first month of the season for Detroit. Do you see this kid Bell getting more involved?
Well, like I said, if LaShore comes out stumbling, I see him getting involved, especially as the change of pace guy. What did we say at the beginning of the show? He's had 6 or more fantasy points, Bell,
right, in
every week so far. So like you said, consistent. Yeah, if LaShore doesn't get going, for sure we can see him. But I wouldn't start this guy, Bell. He obviously 6 points a game. You want more than that, but his potential, in this game isn't there right now. So, but keep an eye on him.
All right, here's another team that shocked the world in Week 5, and that was the Indianapolis Colts. They hung around with Green Bay and then took the lead in the fourth quarter and held on for their win. They've been a pleasant game. They've been a pleasant surprise overall, led by, of course, Andrew Luck. A lot of people are high on him this week at the Jets. You are not, however.
Nah, I'm not real high. The only player in this whole game that I think has any fantasy relevance is going to be Reggie Wayne, I think. I think Luck, he'll do fine. Yeah, play him. Obviously, owners that have him, play him. I think he's going to have a good game. I'm just not going out saying he's going to have 25, 30 points, a monster game. But I do think Reggie Wayne will have your 14 or 15 points. And like I said, the Jets, they're
just
garbage.
avoid.
No,
Kansas City, Tampa Bay, 2 other teams that have limited potential. We know about Jamal Charles, and that's been a great story. He has been on fire, really, all season long for the Chiefs, putting that knee injury in the rearview mirror. Tampa Bay, up and down here a little bit, Bob. They got Vincent Jackson we know about. They've got Josh Freeman at quarterback, again, up and down. The run game behind the youngster has been spotty for Tampa. This is a game, I think, that also comes with a red flag, Kansas City at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, one thing to note in this game is Kansas City has let up about over 160 yards rushing a game. So I think...
even the Saints ran on them.
Exactly.
The Saints don't run on anyone.
I think Doug Martin could have a big game, and don't be surprised if this week you see a big boy named LeGarrette Blount become fantasy relevant again. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets in the end zone. They have said they're going to up his production. So keep an eye on him. I know a lot of people, he's owned in a lot of leagues. He's just hasn't been started. He really hasn't been relevant
yet. He just hasn't gotten the carries.
Exactly. So stay away from the guys like that, obviously, that don't get the carries. So.
Well, in 2010, Blount was a star for a solid portion of the season. Big body at about 235, 240. Just a physical runner, a punishing runner, and ran into some troubles last season. Just for whatever reason, was not productive. You want to blame it on the line. You want to blame it on him. You say he lost a step. He's not really fast.
He's lazy.
He's figured him out. He's lazy, whatever. Bottom line is he does have potential to break out, and this could be one of those opportunities over the weekend in Week 6 against a struggling Chiefs run defense. This is the Week 6 edition of the Fantasy Champion Show. My name is Nick Anastos. My friend here is Bob Morin. Oakland, week off last week, fresh, hopefully get Darren McFadden out there, but they're running into a buzzsaw in the form of the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, the team right now in terms of fantasy production, fantasy stars. There's an owner in our Dynasty League that plays Matt Ryan at quarterback and both wide receivers, Roddy White and Julio Jones. And then to boot, you throw in the number one tight end in the game right now, an old vet named Tony Gonzalez. A lot of points, I think, on the way this weekend at the Georgia Dome.
Oh, yeah, get your Falcons ready. Get them in the lineup, all of them. Defense, tight end, both receivers, Michael Turner. Really to touch one point on Oakland is McFadden. People have really seen him start off slow. He hasn't really done much.
Done nothing.
Don't give up on him. I think this week he could do all right. Last week, Alfred Morris had 135 total yards against these guys. So I think McFadden, if he gets the opportunity and they get to run the ball, he could have a good week.
Here's a defensive game, I think, Bob. The Miami Dolphins. And if you're a Miami defense owner, you know this already. They've been excellent defensively this season. And St. Louis, not too bad as well on the defensive side. Both teams young quarterbacks, both teams unproven, both teams inconsistent in terms of offensive production. I think this has a low-scoring game written all over it. St. Louis at Miami. Proceed with caution.
Yeah, no, I think we had talked a little bit about this before when we were going over our prep here. And in this game, obviously Reggie Bush, you're going to start.
Yeah.
But I would say both defenses are warranted a start. If you start team defenses, like you said, a defensive game, I think Miami's defense is for real. It's obviously keeping them in these games.
They've been a top 5 defense statistically all season.
Exactly. So roll with them. And if they happen to be, I know in one of my JV leagues, I'm in one JV league, there was the Rams defense as of this week was still available. So jump on them if they are, and why not spot start them if you have a tough matchup this week.
And for IDP fans, the number 1 defensive back in the NFL right now is Cortland Finnegan.
Yes.
Guess who he plays for? The Rams. All right. And Mr. Bob Morin. Excuse me.
I thought you were going to say he plays for the Black Bears.
Excuse me. Buffalo at Arizona. The Bills have looked terrible the last 2 weeks. More accurately, the last 6 quarters. They fell apart in the second half against New England after producing in the first half, and then just got ran over and outplayed in San Francisco a week ago. C.J. Spiller seems like a dream at this point. Seems like a long time ago is what I mean. This was the best fantasy back, period, through the first 3 weeks of the season. Got himself injured, hasn't missed a game, hasn't missed the start, but still has been slowed down over the last 2 weeks. Facing another tough front 7 on the road at Arizona. What does C.J. Spiller owners do?
Yeah, I'm still staying away from him. Again, I've sat on him the past 2 weeks where I own him. I didn't play him, which was smart. Not going to play him again this week. He's just not getting the touches either. They're not giving him the ball enough. I don't know if it's because he's not healthy enough.
They got Fred Jackson back
and Jackson, and I don't know if something is still wrong with him. So until I actually, and I know it's going to happen, I'm going to sit him, and he's going to have a big, huge week. But that's fantasy, and that's the risks I'm willing to take. Until I actually need him, I'm going to sit on him again until he can go out there. So, but yeah, just looking at this game though, Arizona, I just read this. The receivers have 10 touchdowns in 5 games versus the Bills. So they've just been absolutely torched. So Andre Roberts, Larry Fitzgerald owners, you're probably licking your chops right now listening to this.
So they still have a clown named Kevin Cobb throwing the football there.
Yeah, but he's done all right. He's gotten Larry the ball here and there. He's at games, and against the weak defense.
His numbers are down, though.
But against the weak defense, I think Kevin Cobb can handle it, especially the Bills. They have not done anything to stop the pass this year.
Right.
So why not? Go with them.
Speaking of not being able to stop the pass, we move our attention now to Seattle, where the New England Patriots are coming to town. Patriots have been very susceptible against the pass this season. In fact, they have given up how many touchdowns? 7?
Yes.
Over the first 5 weeks, through the air, of course, and I think 2 in each of the last 3 games. So after a strong start, they have tapered off a little bit there. They still have problems in the secondary. Problem is with Seattle, they have been able to throw consistently. Although Sidney Rice might be a guy, if you have a starter on a bye week, plug in at the wide receiver spot. He may find pay dirt. He is big, he is fast, he is strong. And meanwhile, Russell Wilson, the rookie quarterback for Seattle, continues to pile up games under his belt and gain that experience moving forward. New England, we know what they're going to do offensively. They're going to pass. They're going to run. They're number one in the NFL with 33 points per game. They're most likely going to score, even though there's some big physical beasts on the other side defensively for Seattle that can rush the passer. I don't know, Bob. I think that if Seattle can exercise the blitz and make things tough on Tom Brady, that front seven is good enough to at least contain the Patriots' run game. This game overall could be more low scoring than people think.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not going to even.
You're not
say
going that far?
Well, I'm not going to say what everybody's been saying. Oh, they're playing in Seattle. I've been hearing that all week long, and it's driving me crazy.
It is loud.
It is loud. I know they're
real loud.
the 12th man, whatever, blah blah blah. You know, it's known around the league.
And Tom Brady has never played in Seattle.
Yeah, I heard that interview. I heard the press conference that Tom said he's excited to get out there. He knows it's loud. He knows, you know, the fans are into it. And, you know, it must be an exciting place to play. I don't know if this is going to work with him or work against him. I think, honestly, from what I've seen out of Tom Brady, this is going to work in his favor. And I honestly think going into this week, too, Aaron Hernandez, big question mark. He is listed as questionable. He has practiced 3 straight practices.
Limited.
But I would expect this guy to play. I don't know what to expect from him. I probably wouldn't start him. I'm not starting him, actually. I'm going to go with another tight end I have that we'll probably mention later on. But I think Danny Woodhead's got to step up too. You know, this is a big game. I know you said
good.
Yeah, and I know you said you know, Seattle's rush defense, obviously it is what it is. They're good. We've seen that. They've stopped some good backs this year. You know, I think on the Seattle side, I would try Golden Tate out. Check him out. He could be a sleeper this week. We've seen him, you know, he's done all right. He had a couple of touchdowns against Green Bay that game. You know, we'll see what happens, but I'm just thinking the Pats will probably shut down Sidney Rice. I'm thinking.
We'll see.
I know you want to start him this week, so I kind of wanted to say that just to burst your bubble.
Well, he is a big, strong guy.
No, he is.
Targets. He just doesn't get the looks that a number one wide receiver should. This is the Week 6 edition of the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos along with Bob Morin. Kind of wrapping up the schedule here. Washington will host Minnesota. The Vikings have been sneaky good so far, centered around a healthy Adrian Peterson. Of course, Percy Harvin has had a big part of that success, and the second-year quarterback from Florida State, Christian Ponder, has taken care of the football, to say the least, there in Minnesota. Washington's in a tough spot. I think they need a win. They're at home, should bring out the best. RG3, who was perhaps the player of the month, fantasy-wise, with the Redskins, is questionable with a concussion, which he suffered back in week number 5. If RG3 doesn't go, do you stay away from everybody with the Skins? Because the Vikings have been good against the run. You think Alfred Morris, who's gone over the century mark 2 or 3 times already, he's been excellent for the Redskins, but he might meet his match this week against the Vikings, especially if they're packing the box without a fear of the run, if RG3 is on the sidelines, unable to go.
Yeah, I'm even going as far as if RG3 is in the lineup, not to go with anybody on Washington.
Including RG3.
Including RG3. And
Wow.
I think Alfred Morris, he's one of my definitely bench guys. I think he's gonna have a reality check to the NFL this week, and I think I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. You know, they might start off running the ball, but they're going to have to pass it. They're going to be down all game, I feel. I think Minnesota is for real, and Ponder takes care of the ball. Percy Harvin's running on all cylinders, and then they have a tight end a lot of people might not have even heard of. I know a lot of people in fantasy, but Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
He's has 4 touchdowns this year, and Washington has let up 4 touchdowns to tight ends this year. So looks like a good matchup for him. He's a must start in my book.
Yeah.
So, Percy Harvin, Adrian Peterson, Rudolph, go with them. Vikings in this one.
This may be the game of the week, this next one. San Francisco hosting the defending Super Bowl champion New York Giants in a rematch of the NFC Championship game from a season ago. The Niners have been downright nasty defensively. We knew that. They were successful defensively last year. Did run into a hiccup week 3, a little consistency issue where they fell on the road against that Minnesota Vikings, which we just gave praise to. But besides that, Bob, they have been excellent. In fact, have steamrolled a couple of AFC East teams the last 2 weeks, a 34-0 win over the Jets, and then just a smoke show against the Bills at home last week. Giants, a little bit better than both, I think, the Bills and the Jets, but I don't think they have enough to win in San Francisco. Can they produce? Maybe. I think Eli has an average day, still facing a good secondary, facing an excellent front seven. I think the Giants' run game will be bottled up. And then offensively for the Niners, same guys. Frank Gore, wide receivers tend to stay away just because they spread it out too much. Alex Smith, great game last week against the Bills, comes back a little bit this week. I just don't see a whole lot of fantasy potential in what could be a great football game to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real good football game to watch. I would try to stay away. Obviously, you're going to have to start Victor Cruz. You know, people are going to start Bradshaw. Honestly, I don't think they're going to do much, though, like you touched on. I think in this game, you said to stay away from the Niners receivers. I'm going to go out on a limb and Mario Manningham. He knows the Giants' system. He was just there a year ago. Mm-hmm. He could have a good game. Keep an eye out on him, maybe a sleeper start.
Sunday night, Houston. Bob Morin, a fan of the Texans.
Oh, I am.
Hosting the Packers. Green Bay needs a win following a surprising loss against Indianapolis. They are 2-3. Houston's 5-0 and have had no trouble with either or any of their opponents through the first 5 weeks. I think this game, perhaps, I might have spoken too soon there. This game could be the game of the week, just as easy. Foster's going to have a big game. We know that. Matt Schaub does not turn the ball over. He's excellent on the play action. He has more play action touchdown passes than anybody, not only this year but last year. And Green Bay, they're going to throw it around even though they're banged up. Well, because they're banged up, I think they throw it around more with Benson maybe being out, or definitely, being out. I think Rodgers takes to the air early. I think he takes to the air often. And for a defense as good as Houston's is, and they've been a top 3 ranked defense all season, they have been susceptible to the big play, the big pass play. And that's where Aaron Rodgers comes in, even with depleted weapons on the outside. I think Rodgers has a good game. This is going to be a shootout, I think, Bob.
Let's talk about James Jones real quick.
James Jones, sure.
Let's talk about how down in the red zone this year, he's been a major factor. A lot of people might not realize it. 5 touchdowns in the red zone this year. 4 in the past 2 weeks.
Right. So, and he was supposedly a big play guy.
Exactly.
But here he is getting it done inside the 20.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And then let's touch base on Randall Cobb, too. We talked about no running back. Randall Cobb could see a few more carries.
Yeah.
He could become, the player a lot of people thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season.
Well, they handed off to him out of the slot. They line him up next to Rodgers in the shotgun.
He's like another Percy Harvin almost, where he's versatile and he's a player. I like those players where you can get the extra value out of them. You might get some special teams points out of them as well. So, but really just quick to touch base on the Texans. Owen Daniels has been as hot of a tight end as any this year. And I'm rolling with him over Aaron Hernandez, if that gives you a gauge on if you're a Hernandez owner, where I'm going with it. Owen Daniels ranked number 3 tight end right now. So
yeah, and he fits perfectly with that kind of offense.
Oh, yeah.
An offense that picks their shots downfield with the play action, but most of their passes is the middle of the field, that 10 to 15 yards down the field range, and who better than a veteran like your man.
He was on my 2007 runner-up team I had, and now he's back on the squad.
Yeah.
Last time I owned him was in 2007. So, yeah, he's been a journeyman, but he's always been, when healthy, he's been pretty consistent.
This is the Week 5 edition. Week 6, I'm sorry.
Week 6.
Living back in time here for a moment. Week 6 of the NFL season. Week 6 of the Fantasy Champion Show with Nick Anastos and Bob Morin. Final game on the slate, Monday night, Denver visiting San Diego. I said it in the preseason, San Diego was past their prime, so to speak, their collective prime, their window of opportunity had shrunk. And through the first 2 weeks of the season, it looked like I had been proven wrong. However, they have come back down to earth a little bit. Antonio Gates looks like a shadow of his former self. Their defense is not very good. Ryan Williams isn't healthy. I just think that Denver is going to come in and look for the W. They're 2-3, and they were on the doorstep on the comeback trail last week where some mistakes on their end in the red zone cost them the football game in what was a 31-21 loss to New England. I think Denver's hungry. I think they're talented enough in a division game to really go out and feast on a Chargers team that is weaker than what we've seen from San Diego over the last 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, and like you said, hungry is the best word to describe this team, especially that defense. 13 sacks in the past 4 games.
They can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, so expect, like we talked about, Von Miller, your boy,
Doomerville
getting at it. So, yeah, Phillip Rivers, he's going to have his hands full. People that are high on the Meacham poll right now, I would jump right off of it because I don't think he's probably going to do what he did in the first few games of the year. Really, not much.
And even Malcolm Floyd might get put in check because they got Champ Bailey on.
He's come down to earth a little bit too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be cautious when you're using any of those guys. Only if you absolutely have to, but don't get overly excited about Meacham last week.
All right, there's an extended version of the Stardom Sit-'em. Little different format this week as we went game by game over the course of the NFL schedule. Final segment here. Bob, some predictions. We'll start with you.
Yeah.
The New England Patriots.
I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to say this weekend in Seattle, Danny Woodhead is the #1 back in fantasy out of all their running backs. So Bolden, Ridley.
Wow.
Vereen.
You think Woodley will outproduce Ridley? I mean, Woodhead will outproduce Ridley.
I think the game situation is going to call on it. And let's be honest, Nick. We've watched enough Patriots football over the years, and we've seen a lot of Bill Belichick. Ridley's fumbled back-to-back weeks. Mm-hmm. There's going to be, there's a trust thing there. And we see what Bill does. He'll go with the guy that's going to protect the ball. Mm-hmm. And that could hurt Ridley's value a little bit. So just watch that. I'm not saying he's going to be benched. But I'm saying his carries could go down, and if he doesn't start off hot, they're going to use Woodhead, especially if they can't get the run game going. We see Woodhead a lot in there on passing downs. So he's definitely going to be out there. You want me to give my other prediction I have?
Let me hear it.
All right. I think Tampa Bay defense is going to have the best defense, team defense, fantasy-wise, for week number 6. And they're playing
Kansas City.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
With a backup quarterback.
And Brady Quinn, probably Notre Dame's worst quarterback ever.
I'm going to take a look at that Giants-Niners game, which I alluded to earlier, and follow it up with this. Anytime there's a back facing the Niners, big red flag. Giant red sail. Forget a red flag. Now, you said you had to start Bradshaw. I disagree. I mean, Bradshaw did have 200 yards last week in a Giants win, which was amazing. Incredible performance. Hats off. Salute you, Mr. Bradshaw. Problem is, you're not going to get more than 45 on the ground against the San Francisco 49ers. Put it in writing, put it in stone, right here on the Fantasy Champion Show. Mr. Bradshaw is going to get shut down by that San Francisco front seven.
Yeah.
And
so are all the Giants fans. That's just my last point, because I don't like Giants fans. They rub me the wrong way.
Well, there you go.
I'm just kidding.
Hopefully this show has rubbed you the right way. Week 6 in the bag. Another successful edition of the Fantasy Champion Show. For our producer, MC The Brick, my friend Bob Morin, I'm Nick Anastos saying so long. Check us out next week, Thursday night, as we take a look at Week 7 on Facebook. You can find us at the Fantasy Champion Show. Adios.